Plan B is not the worst thing that could ever happen to you. In fact, in my experience, many people who failed at Plan A, had to give up Plan A, will look back and say, you know what, on reflection, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I can certainly say that too. What is Plan B? Well, Plan B is when Plan A doesn't work out. I went to college and I was kicked out of college. My father was horrified. I was very upset. Looking back, it is the best thing that ever happened to me, or at least one of them. The love of my life dumped me. I was brokenhearted. He did me a massive favor. And then I found this dream home and I wanted to buy it so much. I had it on my vision board. And I was trying so hard to sell my home to buy this home. And eventually I knew I had to walk away from that home. And I was upset. But then I found a home so much better, better value, cheaper, better square footage. I was so glad it didn't work out. So I can look in my life and see, wow, Plan A didn't work at university, didn't work when I was buying my home, and yet it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Many, many years ago as a personal trainer, and I went to America to make a video, and to make a long story short, the girl I left teaching my classes kind of lied and said I wasn't coming back, and they gave all my classes to her, and I was like, I came back from America to the job I love, and they're like, oh no, we've taken all your slots, really sorry, but if you like, you can come and do the graveyard slot. And I'm like, I am not competing against my own classes. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. So I went to another gym, walked in and went, hey, I was the best trainer at Pineapple Studios. And they went, so glad you're here. Our best trainer has just gone to work for Princess Diana. Would you like all her slots? I'm like, would I? But even better than that, a month later I met the first love of my life. 3 months later I moved with him to America. That would never have happened if I hadn't been fired from a job I love. And I look at Catherine Zeta-Jones, whose first fiancé dumped her, and her second one too, and she was brokenhearted, went to America, met Michael Douglas, became Hollywood royalty. I'm sure every day she says, thank you so much, God, that those two first guys dumped me. They did me a favor. So look at Plan B. What does that mean? It means my career is not working out. My relationship is not working out. I'm not living where I want to live. But it's okay. I see so many women who come in and go, well, you know, my marriage has failed. And I feel like I'm like, look, you're 27. That's a starter marriage. It's like having a starter home. You learned a lot, and now you can have a better marriage. Many times you go into a career and think, this career isn't for me. It doesn't make my heart sing. It's not successful. We know that Colonel Sanders, who started KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, had to go to people in double figures until he found someone to buy that recipe. Many people have been rejected, whose businesses have been rejected, bounce back and say, you know, looking back, I'm glad that didn't work. I'm glad I got fired. I'm glad I got rejected. I'm glad I got dumped. I'm glad my prototype didn't work out. I thought I was going over here, but I kind of went over there and around there, and then I came here and it's all worked out perfectly. So you have to see Plan B as not, oh, this is second best, Plan A didn't work, and Plan B is second best. Sometimes things don't work because they're not meant to work, and sometimes Plan B is so much better. One of my dear friends had 3 miscarriages. She was devastated, but she went to El Salvador. She adopted the most perfect 3-week-old baby whose mother couldn't raise her, brought her back to England. And one day her little girl said, Mummy, I'm so glad we found you. She said, so am I. And I'm actually glad I had those 3 miscarriages, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have found you. You wouldn't have found me. We're meant to be together. And I've seen that many times, people who've adopted a child and said, well, gosh, you know, looking back, I was meant to have this child. It was meant to be. I've had several people come to train with me who said, you know, I wanted to be a doctor. That was plan A. I went to medical school, but it was so hard, so difficult. The hours were unbearable. They didn't fit in with being a parent. And so I became an RTT therapist. We have a wonderful therapist called Maretta who was a doctor. And she left my course, went back to Scotland, shut down her entire surgery and became an RTT therapist. And said, you know, this is actually better for me. I've always wanted to help clients really quickly. I don't want to prescribe medication. I had someone in the police force who said, I went into the police force to make a difference. Of course they did. What happened is I was locking up people with mental illnesses, alcoholics, drug addicts, and I didn't feel I was making a difference. And I heard about you. I trained with you. I planned to actually use your training within the police force, but I actually left the police force, and now I have an amazing career. I have another guy I trained 2 years ago, a police officer who was suicidal and has now left the police force and has got an amazing career as a therapist. We've had so many people who've said, you know, I wanted to do this in my career, but my career would not let me embrace my calling. Law enforcement has rules. Being a doctor, of course, has rules. Being a psychiatrist has rules, but in RTT there are still rules, but there's more flexibility. I trained a psychiatrist recently out in LA who said, this is so incredible. When I go back and leave and go back to my hospital, if they won't let me use RTT, I'm going to leave that hospital until I find one that will, because I've never seen a method so powerful in helping. And then he wrote to me and said, you know, I had a client in the hospital in a terrible state, and RTT made a difference. So it's so exciting, people that train for one career. I wanted to be in law, I wanted to be in medicine, I wanted to be a vet. I wanted to be something, but I didn't have the money to pursue that career. I couldn't pass the exams. When I got that career, it was exhausting. But then I found RTT and realized, well, I can still make a difference, still make people better, still help people. And finally, I can do it in a way that makes my heart sing while I'm making my clients' hearts sing too. So if you want a new career, particularly a career where you can work your own hours, charge your own fees, but best of all, make a difference and do something really valuable, then I invite you to click the link below, watch my career-changing webinar, knowing that you can do what I do. Check out my next video here.